Yes, welcome family. How are we all? I hope you're absolutely amazing and life is treating you beautifully well. Welcome to Future Vibes, a new well-being show that offers you tools and techniques to positively change your vibe. So welcome team, my name's Neil. I'm a holistic therapist and coach, and I've been working in well-being for over 15 years. And I'm really deeply passionate about sharing as much wisdom and knowledge that's been passed down to me as possible to help empower you to elevate your personal well-being. And so, speaking of personal well-being, if we're talking about well-being, there's really only one place to start, isn't there? And that is with me. And so today's show is all about me, and not me as in me, Neil. Me as in you. You know, well-being starts within, and it starts in that one place that is us. Because, from my understanding, is we can't really do very much unless we ourselves are well. You know, so we can't really help as much as we'd like if we aren't balanced ourselves. And so, as some of you have noticed, we're hanging out in what I would say is my biggest ally when it comes to well-being, and that is Mother Nature. I try and spend as much time in nature as possible because personally for me it just offers me that time to disconnect from everything that's going on at home, to disconnect from everything else that's going on at work, and to really reconnect with me, because it offers that space to tap into my senses, to hear. I don't know if you can hear, but you can hear the leaves rustling, to be able to smell the earth, just to be able to move and just reconnect. And so for me, nature is an amazing teacher and an amazing first step in really honouring my personal well-being. So I try and spend as much time in nature as possible. And so, with that, I'm sure it's given you guys a bit of a let me watch my feet. I'm sure it's given you a bit of an idea of exactly what we're going to be talking about today. And today it's going to be about the magic two words that a lot of people have been talking about, especially in these challenging times. That is self-care. And so, with that, is I'm not going to offer you a show that's going to be based around, hey, you need to do this, go do some yoga, go do some breathwork, go and do some thinking. It's not about that. I would like to share with you guys a journey into identifying how to connect deeper with yourself and to connect deeper with the things that you love, and then to bring those up so that you spend more time doing the things you love to really offer yourself that internal self-nourishment. And so I'm really blessed today. I've got three absolutely amazing guests who I'm absolutely thrilled to have to have on board and to share their wisdom and knowledge. My beautiful sisters Michelle and Elle, who like me grew up in South Africa, and especially Michelle and I grew up together since we were little kids, but both of them are doing amazing work in the healing world but in the music world as well. And for those of you that know me, music is a huge part of my life. And they're going to be sharing a new track that they've just finished working together with a brother from Mozambique called Nelson. So the three of them together are called Tangoma, and so they'll be sharing the music, but they'll be having a chat about what self-care and creativity means to them as artists. We'll also be joined later in the show by the beautiful Katie Straddons from Your Mind Shrine, and she'll be sharing a beautiful meditation for you just to zone out, tap into your inner self, and literally drift away. So, that's the beginning of our show today. There's loads coming up. I'm going to kick things off with having a look at what's self-care. What does it mean? What does it, what does it encompass? How do we tap into that ourselves? And doing it from a way where it's not a do this, do that, do this. Because I really believe that we've got all the tools inside. We just need some guidance to unlock them. So I'm going to continue my my daily walk here in Mother Nature, just in North Manchester. Absolutely amazing, beautiful spot, and I feel truly blessed to be able to share this with you. And let's get things rolling, team, and I'll see you in a sec. Welcome back, and today we're talking about self-care. And so if you'd like to join us on this immersive experience and this journey into what is self-care, why is it important, what tools I can embody and tap into, and how to tap into self-connection, I'd advise you to get a pen and paper, because through this journey I'm going to share 4 questions with you, and my intention with sharing these 4 questions is to have them as a bit of a framework to guide you to a place at the end where you're able to actually self-determine some tools and techniques that are going to benefit your personal well-being, and tools and techniques that you would love doing, and self-care practices that you'd really love to, well, experience daily, weekly. And so yeah, as I said, my intention is very much about offering you guys a journey for you to explore. It's, it would be completely irresponsible of me really to say, for self-care you need to do this, you need to do this, and you need to do that. Because the nature of it, self-care, you're caring for yourself, and we know that everybody is so very, very different. So there's no one size fits all. There never is when it comes to self-care. And so again, I'm looking forward to offering you this journey, and hoping that by the end of it you'll be able to tap into some tools and techniques that are going to nourish you more than anything else. So I suppose if there's one place to start, let's have a look at what is self-care. Alright, so it's bandied about a lot within the well-being community, and what's your self-care practice? Are you still practicing self-care, etc.? But what is it? In a nutshell, yes, it's caring for yourself, but I'm going to differentiate a couple of areas, and again, this is my interpretation. And so my interpretation is that self-care is a moment or an activity that you do that offers yourself time and offers yourself space from all that's going on around you, but that also offers nourishment to your well-being. It could be your physical well-being, could be your emotional well-being, could be your energetic well-being, could be your mental well-being, could also be your social well-being as well. But in a nutshell, for me, it's very much about offering you time and space to nourish your own personal well-being. Okay. So with that, it can come in various different shapes, sizes, forms, whatever. Again, because it's relevant to you as the individual. So it could be physical, it could be through physical activities and practices, could be things like breathwork, could be yoga, could be some Shinrin-yoku, which is what I was doing earlier in the, and I'm not just pointing at the top of the screen for no reason, but that's up there is where the park is, where I spend a lot of time. And Shinrin-yoku is spending time in nature, and the Japanese call it forest bathing, or we call it forest bathing as our Western interpretation of it. And that's just spending time in nature and connecting with nature. It could be going for a sauna, it could be having a massage, it could be making yourself a cup of tea, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it could be those physical things, okay? It could be mental tools. It could be practicing meditation. It could be practicing gratitude. It could be tapping into self-compassion. It could be tapping into kindness. There's a variety of different practices that you can tap into. So what I'm saying is it comes in a variety of different shapes, sizes, forms. But more than anything, again, it comes back to that offering yourself space, time, and well-being nourishment. Now, I just want to differentiate a couple things. First of all, is that when I'm talking about self-care, okay, I'm separating that a little bit from what I call self-hygiene. For me, self-hygiene is very much making sure that you're brushing your teeth, you're brushing your hair, you're actually eating, and you're sleeping, and it sounds very simple, but in all honesty, when I was really struggling, I burnt myself out after 11 years of really pushing to work at the highest level I possibly could. When it came down to it, I struggled with the self-hygiene stuff in terms of making sure I was eating at the right, well, not the right times, but just constantly eating. I'm sure for those of you that have been busy, and it happens to me every now and again. Again, always 100% honest with things, is that I might just get stuck into work, and then all of a sudden it gets to like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like, oh, I haven't eaten. So those side of things, for me, that's what I call kind of self-hygiene. It's always a grey area. There's never any black and white. But so self-hygiene is very much just the general, what I would say, day-to-day caring of our physical being, whereas self-care for me is more about offering those activities or those moments for our personal well-being. What I would say, what it is not in my world, in my interpretation, is it's not buying things for yourself. It's not looking for those external sources of reward. So self-care for me would not be going into town and spending money on a t-shirt or shoes and whatnot. There's an element of that offering reward and offering a bit of self-love and potentially tapping into a bit of self-kindness. But just for the scope of today, I'm just going to say that we're going to leave that where it is.
Now, so the beauty of self-care is that it can be as simple or as complex as you like. And what do I mean by that? Well, it can simply be, what I find for me is the best thing, is getting up in the morning and taking 20 minutes to have a cup of tea by myself. That to me is my most favorite part of the day. I get up in the morning, I sit down for 20 minutes, I have a cup of tea, and I just chill out and I just check in with myself. How am I mentally feeling? How am I physically feeling? What's going on in the world? In my world, what's my soup of the day? So just spending time with me. For me, it's a really nourishing moment. So it could be something simple as that. It could be, you might be working a lot, and next thing you know, you kind of have a spare 5 minutes. So self-care might just be, oh, I'm going to take this 5 minutes for me. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk. So it could be very, I suppose the word could be sort of ad hoc, and it could be done just in the moment, where you take time for yourself. You might tap into breathing practices or something like that, or some mindfulness. But it could also be, I suppose complex isn't the right word, but it's more routine based, where you could be regularly attending a yoga class, regularly attending a breathwork class, regularly sitting down and having your meditation times, having your times to go for a run, whatever it may be. This is the beauty of self-care, is it's all about you. So it's what fits in with you and how everything works. Because again, it's your journey and it's where you're heading to. So with that, let's start with our first question. So pen and paper at the ready. And with the beauty of technology, you can stop this and spend as long as you want going into this. It's up to you guys. So first question is, how do I care for me? So taking a moment just to allow that to sink in and explore. How do I care for me? So now we've had a few moments. I'm hoping, obviously, with the nature of this, with the show, we're just going to tick on. But please do, if you do feel the call, just take that moment to embody that question and yeah, do some digging for yourself. And so I suppose the next question is like, why is why is self-care really important for me? And I think that in itself is the answer, because it's for me. So one of the things I like to say is, when it comes to working with these things, it's I am me. And what that means is that I'm responsible for me. I'm the primary carer for me. If I don't get up and brush my hair, then I'm going to have to deal with that. And obviously I've got long locks, so I'm going to have to deal with the issues with that. If I don't eat, then I'm going to have to deal with the repercussions of that. So I'm very much responsible for me, and this is why self-care is so important, because it's helping nourish you. Not only that, but I'd like to also think about things in a different way. And that is, I am the first doctor I see. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, if something's going wrong in terms of I'm not feeling well, let's just say, yeah, I've woken up and I'm feeling pretty heavy, or I feel like I've got a headache, or there's something that's not physically going well for me at the moment, then I tap into my own innate skills to then be able to lift that and change it. Okay, could be, let's be honest, could be going out and partying and having an absolutely amazing time and waking up with a hangover. The first person that I'm going to turn to is me. How do I deal with that? Do I need to go and self-medicate and take paracetamol or whatever, if that's your thing? What is the first port, or who is the first port of call when these things happen? It could be, let's think, obviously pulling things off the top of my head, you could trap your finger in a door. Okay, you don't all of a sudden run straight to see a doctor. You self-manage. Okay, so that first doctor you see is you. It's only when your skills you kind of have expired your skills that people come and see you. And for the work I do, I feel absolutely humbled, because as a therapist and coach, people are typically coming to see me in pain or when they need guidance. And both times I really feel humbled, because people have got to the end of their resources and they don't know what to do. So that's where people like myself, or anybody in the wellbeing world, can come, can step forward and go, right, let's help you navigate the situation and get you to a state where you're pain-free, stress-free, you may be fit, whatever the goals are. So again, for me, first thing is that I'm responsible for me. it sounds really simple, but once I really embodied that myself when I was going through some challenging times, it was a door that really opened for me, and I was like, wow, okay, right, I need to crack on with this and help lift myself and get myself into a state where I feel comfortable and well and happy. Okay. The second one for me, that I suppose it's a little analogy, if you will, or is it an acronym? I kind of that English side of things really escapes me, so I do apologize. But yeah, the other one is I am we. And what do I mean by I am we? And that's I'm responsible for all the relationships I have around me. Okay. So if I'm balanced within me, then when it comes to meeting somebody and having a chat, or if I'm feeling good within me and I'm having a chat, I'm more likely to give them my full attention, my full focus, my full moment, my full time. I'm sure, and again, hands up, it's happened to me numerous times where I'm feeling a bit heavy, I'm not feeling ideal, I'm feeling a bit crap, to be honest. And then I'm either introduced to somebody new or I've got to have a chat with somebody. That connection isn't quite there. It's not there because I'm more in my own little world. So I'm not really responsible for the relationship. I'm responsible for the relationship, but I'm not engaging in the relationship as best I can. And so there's an amazing quote by Robert Holden, an amazing quote that says, the relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship you have, which I think is so, so, so important. So that relationship and connection with yourself, we'll talk about self-connection in a minute, that connection with you really sets the tone for the connection you can create and have with those around you. Okay. So then what are the benefits of self-care? Why are we even talking about it? As I said, for me, it's the foundation of all well-being. So we know that 80-90% of all visits to the doctors are stress-based, and most of that, in fact, I would actually argue that all of that is self-regulatable. And what I mean by that is that if we have tools and techniques in place, we can regulate our stress and we can regulate and manage that so that we don't actually need to deal with the symptoms at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, especially when I see clients in the clinic and that, they're coming in with symptoms because the initial issue wasn't dealt with. And most times the initial issue might be emotional or might be stress-based, things like anxiety, etc. And what happens is it plays out and it's not dealt with, and then it can manifest itself in the physical body as well. So with that, how does self-care help with the physical body? Well, things like, keeping your immune system boosted, helping you manage pain as well. From the mental side, stress I just talked about, anxiety, helping you manage and navigate those as well. Emotionally, it's doing some self-care, as we've just kind of touched on. It helps develop better connections with other people and those around you, and better connections with you and what's happening in your life and the story that you're creating. Energetically, through self-care practices, you're able to boost your energy. You're able to maintain that energy throughout the day or whenever it's relevant for you. And socially, again, it's able to develop those better relationships, which is so important. So, as I said, the foundation of well-being for me is self-care. And so when it comes to the benefits, they are, there's thousands and, it's a cascade of effects. But again, it comes back to that self of nourishing and looking after yourself so you are living the life that you ideally would like to live in a state where you are, you're happy and you're healthy and you're balanced. So let's look at another question. Okay, so pens at the ready. Next question is, why is my self-care important to me? Okay, so again, this is going to be different to everybody else because they've got different things going on in their world. Okay, so an example for me, my self-care is really important for me because I tend to be very head focused, and I've spent years researching, and I absolutely love researching. I can disappear for days in my little man cave here listening to music and researching, and I absolutely love it. But if I keep going down that track, and that's happened to me before, especially when I was doing when I was doing a lot of research a few years ago, is you kind of start to neglect things and really start then the patterns of struggling and connecting. Well, this is my story, and connecting with other people because I was just caught up in my own world. So for me, tapping into mindfulness practices and practices to get me more in my body, those are beneficial. So again, take a couple of moments. Why is my self-care important to me? Okay. So, moving on, as if we've taken that time, We've acknowledged, what self-care, and we're having a look at why it's important to me. And then how can we actually bring more self-care into our lives? How can we really embody that? All right. And the first thing, there's two major aspects for me, and that is, one is self-connection, first of all, but two is time. So putting aside time for me to really, practice self-care, or practice self-care tools and techniques, or moments that offer me space. And so time is so important. I bet you it resonates with a lot of you. You've gone, oh, well, I just don't have time to do that, or I don't have time to meditate, or I don't have time to go for a run, or I don't have time for that. I would highly recommend, again, it's your journey, creating that time. If this is all new to you, start with 5 minutes, and slowly but surely build it up and build it into a practice where you are spending time with yourself, doing the things you need to nourish yourself. Now, speaking of nourishing yourself, fantastic, great, let's go and nourish ourselves. But how do we nourish ourselves? How do we know what to know, what nourishment to offer? Well, for me, the next step is about self-connection. Because if we are struggling to connect with ourselves, or we're not sure how to connect, then it's fair to say we probably don't understand what our desires, our wants, our needs, what are the things that will help us feel balanced and help us feel regulated. So for me, self-connection is a huge part. In fact, I would say self-connection is the seat almost of self-care. Because if we can connect to ourselves, we can really understand what's needed, but we can also understand, and we're going to talk a bit about the story in a minute, what's going on in our story and how to help nourish ourselves so that we can best, navigate that story. Okay, so when it comes down to self-connection, there's three different areas that I'd like to talk about. And, well, three different tools, if you will. And for me, they are, first one is be present with me. The second one is be honest with me. And the third one is be kind to me. And so what do I mean? So when I'm talking about connecting myself, I'm talking about be present with me. So taking some time, for me, again, it's that cup of tea in the morning. So first of all, taking some time to just be present with me, to sit with myself, to notice what's going on, to notice my feelings, to notice any emotions. When it comes to being present with yourself, we don't need to solve anything. We just need to be, and spend time. And it can be challenging, but it's just having that moment. And so, as I said, for me, I just started with a cup of tea, and I've been doing it for years now, just spending these moments. It also opens the door for mindfulness, being present with yourself. There's a huge push in the mindfulness world and meditation world of really coming into the present moment. Being present is such an amazing tool. Some say that's why it's called the present. But yeah, it's such an amazing tool to be aware of what's going on now. Tapping into things like, what can I smell? What can I hear? What can I taste? What can I touch? Taking us away from those times of stress looking forward, or let's say another thing is maybe remorse or shame or guilt from looking back. So coming into the present. So that's the first tool that I find fantastic to tap into self-connection. The second one is being honest with me. So we've talked about the Wholesome 7 before, sleeping well, breathing well, moving well, thinking well, relaxing well, nourishing well, and connecting well. Okay, being honest with yourself with where you're at. So where am I at with all these things? Where am I sleeping enough? Am I actually eating balanced food? Am I drinking enough water? All right. As I said, am I moving enough? So being honest with where you're at. So when you do take that moment to be present, you can acknowledge where you're at as well. So it's, for me, being honest is so important. And for those those clients that are watching, they'll be nodding their head, because it's typically where I start, is with clients. It's, let's find a moment, be present with you. Now let's be honest. Be honest, because let's, again, not to carry on with the honest bit, but let's be honest. Are you being true to you, or are you painting this picture that's not really you, and again, that's disconnecting yourself? So to connect better, be honest, be present, and be kind. Really be kind to yourself, because kindness is such an amazing tool, but it comes from within. Nobody is going to run around you every day being kind to you, so it kind of has to be built in. And so if we're kind to ourselves, we understand that we're just navigating this world the best we can, it is a really great way to soften the stresses that we're in, and to really help us balance this crazy world we're living in. And so when it comes to being kind to yourself, I like to use the analogy of not talking to myself like a 2-year-old, but if I find that my inner critic's popping up, if I find I'm being a little bit derogatory towards myself, I like to try and change things and say, well, would I say that to a 2-year-old me? So then talking myself through things as if it was a 2-year-old me. And 9 times out of 10, if you flip that around and you start talking to yourself, or using that language as if you were talking to a 2-year-old, it's kind of like, oh, I so wouldn't do that. I feel, personally, I feel bad when I do that. So it's basically unwinding that and saying, well, if I was a 2-year-old, I'm sure I'd offer more self-compassion, more understanding, and more time. So, pens at the ready, team. Question 3. Okay. So, question 3. How do you connect to you? How do you connect to you? Well, how do I connect to myself? What are the things that you do? Do you have a daily way to connect to yourself? Do you have a conversation with yourself? Is there any kind of practice there? Okay. So taking a moment to check in with that. Again, I hope you've stopped and you've had a check in with yourself. And so I sourced a quote from somewhere, and for the life of me I couldn't find out where it was from, but I think it was a great one. And I'm just going to read it here, and it says, if mutual vulnerability fosters closeness between two people, so if two people who are vulnerable and maybe struggling with the same thing brings them together, shouldn't vulnerability within ourselves foster closeness with ourselves? So maybe going through that process of being present, being honest, and being kind, noticing that vulnerability, isn't that an amazing opportunity to then connect with ourselves? Because let's be honest, and I've done it before, I've found somebody else, and actually even it flips the other side. Even people who enjoy doing the same thing, we bond together straight away. So, and if it's more on the vulnerable side, well, you have that closeness. So if we can be vulnerable with ourselves, we can get out to know ourselves a little bit better. And again, it's a very sensitive subject, but just spending time with ourselves and connecting and just being present, I think is the greatest gift that we can start offering ourselves. And so, with that, it's my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome 2 sisters who are absolute fantastic beings, doing amazing work within the well-being world, and also within the music world. And for those of you, as I said before, who know me, the music and sound pays a huge parallel to well-being for me. Michelle and Al have known for a long time. Michelle and I actually grew up together since we were 9 back in South Africa. And I sent a couple questions over to them just to ask them what self-care means to them as creatives, as musicians, and as artists. And also asked for some tools and techniques or some tips for best self-care practice and how it works for them. And after that, we're going to have an absolutely amazing little treat. Michelle and Al and Nelson, a brother from Mozambique, have come together and have created Tangoma, and they've just released a track called Stomp, and we're going to have an exclusive preview of that. And with Stomp, they are collecting donations to help with South African education. So there'll be a link below, so please click on that and donate as much or as little as you want for the track. Absolutely amazing track, so please do enjoy. And from me, over and out, over to Al and Michelle. Thank you so much, sisters.
Hey everyone, I am Michelle Cade, and
I am Elle.
And we're both musicians, electronic music artists. I am a singer as well, and like to make music that is very melodic and emotive. So usually it's kind of an electronica mixed with some deep house in there, and a lot of influences from South Africa, so that's where I'm from, we're both from. Yeah, so kind of melodic deep house, and I also make music under Mind Like Water, which is inspired by meditation and yoga, and it's more music for relaxation, music for healing, for yoga. Yeah, and
I'm Elle, as I said. It's E11E if you want to find me online. I make also electronica, down-tempo, deep electronic music. I do a lot of vocals with lots of other electronic music producers. I produce my own music, which can be more on the ambient 90s sound of house music, but also make music in collaboration with some disco Balearic artists and also other deep house techno artists. 1/3 of the collaboration set, and I also make music under shoegaze, which is more dream pop and shoegaze inspired. And I have a radio show on Reform Radio which looks at different forms of therapy and the relation to creativity.
yeah, super cool. Yeah, so today we wanted to talk to you guys about self-care, especially self-care in the music industry. And I think the question was, what does self-care, why is self-care important to you as a musician and an artist? Do you want to?
Self-care is really important as an artist because, without stereotyping, we tend to be the more sensitive types, which I think can make you a very good artist because you're attuned to your environment, but it can also mean that you can be quite susceptible to change or issues in your environment or not having enough time on your own. I think this idea of being an introvert or an extrovert is a bit simplistic. I think we have a bit of both, but I think artists, the common theme I find amongst all my creative friends who are artists of any kind of medium is that they need that time to reflect, to process. And a friend of mine who's a musician put it well and said it's kind of like input and output in a circuit, and if you don't have the input, then you don't have enough to have the output. And I think the input is the self-care, like however you want to phrase it, whether it's time on your own, time to reflect, self-care, or other hobbies that feed into the creativity.
Yeah, and things that inspire you, so that you and other doing things like artistic and creative things that inspire you and give you ideas for your creativity.
Yeah, definitely.
And also just having time to be creative without the pressures of having results, so time to play, and really enjoy what you're doing, with a strong focus on just experimenting and practicing and playing, and allowing yourself to do that without just always being so focused on getting a result.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to be a concert pianist or in an orchestra, I think you want to master your craft, but you want to do it in a way that's fun, because I think that actually speeds up the process of learning a lot of the time. And sometimes it is just the hard graft of learning something, the hard graft of doing all the other aspects of being an artist. I mean, I think what you've said is really important, because nowadays, especially as a music artist, there's so much other stuff you have to do on the business side of things, which artists didn't have to do before. And I think that's what can get overwhelming, and that's where you really need to have maybe a kind of differentiation of like the different hats that you're wearing to make your creative career happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of juggling.
And different skills needed. So
totally. And being in a different headspace for those things.
But you've always got to prioritize the creative, because I think the creative,
nothing's going to happen without the with the music, and the creativity is what everything else is about. So without that, you haven't got. So that has to be the priority.
But the creativity is a form of self-care, I think, in and of itself, because just doing it. And if you have any kind of blockage, or you get up in your head about it, then just, like you say, looking at it as a form of play, and just enjoying it again.
Yeah. And I think it's just
can be really healing.
Yeah, totally. And I think self-care is just so important as an artist, because when you are feeling stressed and you're feeling under pressure, your creativity goes out the window. So when you are feeling rested and nourished, and you're doing things that inspire you, that spark joy, you've got time to play, that all those things help with that creative flow. So that's why it's so important, because this is what we live for, is creating and expressing ourselves and our life experiences through our music.
But yeah, the input output visual really just always stuck with me, because it's exactly that. Like, you just don't have enough energy going around the circuit unless you have the input.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, I love that. Okay, and then the next one was, what are your top 3 self-care tips?
Mine would be, because producers spend a lot of time just sitting in the studio or being inside, and I think this is just goes for anyone, but especially creatives who are spending a lot of time indoors or doing the same thing over and over, is to just get outside into nature, into the greenest, quietest place you can. And especially as a musician, seek out silence, and that there's a lot of healing, rejuvenation, and energizing and calming and all of that good stuff. So for me, nature is like really, really important for my self-care.
Yeah, totally. Having a break from the screen.
Yeah, having a break from the screen, big one.
Yeah. I would say, well, being a big fan of sound and the power of sound healing versus music, giving myself enjoying sound healing sessions. So either ones that I've pre-recorded or somebody else's. I have something called the Soma board. I don't know if you can see it hanging up there.
Michelle's sound healing journeys are amazing. You should do that. You can do them online.
Every week. You can do them online. But yeah, just lying on that board, because it has a built-in box, an amp that plays frequencies through it. So you're getting the frequencies through your back, through your body, as well as hearing them through the headphones. So I bought that for myself, so that I could have that as kind of a recharge, to kind of recalibrate myself. So sound healing is a big one for me, and breath is a big one. Having a routine every day that is not too... I found whenever I try to do too much, which I've always done in the past, and had big ideas about exercising and meditating and doing my breath every day, and making it too much, what happens is I fall off the wagon, I get disheartened, and I don't end up doing anything. So actually just making it super simple, really short, so just 10 minutes that I stick to every day, a little bit of breath, a few stretches, and a meditation. What ends up happening is I will generally do about half an hour, sometimes even longer than that. But we were talking about this last night. Setting the bar low.
Lower the bar.
Yeah.
Lower the bar, actually.
So that you're enticed to actually do it. Oh, it's just 10 minutes. I'm just going to sit down. And once you're there, you're loving it, you're feeling good, you end up doing more. So having a simple routine, simple, short and sweet, and it
Little
just
enough
grounds you, and it makes you feel like it's also building momentum. Doing some things in the morning that are kind of quick sometimes. For instance, if I've got a massive to-do list and 3 of those things are going to take a few hours, I know a lot of people say do the hard thing first, but sometimes I'll just do some of the simple things, but that makes me feel like I'm on a roll and I'm getting things done and gives me momentum. And that's the same thing that goes for that short routine in the morning. I've done that, then I'm like, yes,
you feel good.
I'm winning. Yeah.
And if you do more, it's a bonus. But
exactly.
Everyone is so busy these days that I think if you you can set it for 10 minutes, or you could set a really low bar of just sit on your yoga mat and do one inhale, and then you always do more than that. But you feel better rather than setting the bar too high and then not achieving that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it means on the days where you do have more workload and you can't do a whole yoga session or whatever it is that you do to feel good, then you can adjust and allow the bar to be low, and it's fine.
Yeah, you've still done what you said
still
you would
done
do,
what-
so you
yeah.
still have that feeling of achieving.
Yeah, and you still have the routine of thinking about it, sitting there, or whatever,
Yeah.
being in that space. So
Totally. Yeah. So I think that's us on the self-care.
Well, the one thing that we were talking about last night as well was that as important as self-care is, and of course it is, I think something we've spoken about before is that how it's a balance of like not becoming too insular to one's own needs. And although that's really important, I think getting the balance of not discounting other people's needs because yours matter. Sometimes it's just finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And
Fine
then
line.
and also, I mean, we've read articles about people that have been shown to be just happier, like what are the things that make people happier, and 9 times out of 10 it includes some kind of service to others.
Oh, massively. Yeah, giving. I mean, everybody, a lot of people will talk about, giving is actually a selfish act, and it is, because
And that's okay.
it's a human nature. Yeah, it's totally okay. It's human nature to want to give and to bring joy to other people, no matter who you are. And so, being of service, feeling of service gives you so much satisfaction and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And to give to people in need. So being working within a community.
Yep. Creates community.
Having a goal bigger than just your own is
Can
massive
help you promote
for-
yourself, actually, if you feel
Yeah.
you're doing it for something else. Sometimes it's hard to promote your own stuff, but that's and it's just think how good you feel when you give someone a present. You feel great when you
Yeah.
give someone a present. So if even if it's not like, oh, I'm gonna devote myself to again setting the bar too high, I think if one can go about one's day and just think like, could I do one little random act of kindness? Could I buy a coffee for the next person that's coming in, or say to whatever it is, like I think a little bit of service to others is actually a really healing and cathartic and positive thing that you can do for yourself.
Yeah, totally, and it's a win-win.
And it's a win-win.
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, that's why we were talking about this last night, is because Elle and I have collaborated with another friend of ours, Nelson Neves, who's from Mozambique, and Elle and I were born in South Africa, and we collaborated on I guess it's like an Afro house tune, and
Very up-tempo,
yeah.
positive Afro house sound.
Yeah, it's got the vibes if you want to dance. Yeah, and so we decided to release it with a means to raising funds for kids in South Africa. Do you want to talk a little bit about the organisation?
Yeah, so there's an organisation called the South African Education Project, which has done amazing work over the last 10 years, getting kids in townships who usually will get very basic education up to university levels, and really nourishing the youth there, as well as doing amazing just but simple fixes on creches that needed health proofing and making sure the kids are immunized, all sorts of different things that they do, just supporting young people there. But then since COVID's hit, obviously the poorest people in South Africa are being hit the most, and so the South African Education Project has pivoted to just plugging some really essential emergency gaps, making sure food parcels are delivered, making sure people's health needs are getting looked after there. So yeah, it's a cause very close to our heart, and as you'll see in the video for Stomp, it's just a really special continent, and I think the Black Lives Matter movement has very rightly so put an emphasis on specifically Black lives, and why we have to uplift them, why we have to think at every turn, are we giving something towards our Black brothers and sisters,
and contributing to make a change in the inequality that's existed for so long.
Yeah.
What are we doing for that?
And just owning one's white privilege, and looking it dead in the eyes and going, okay, what am I going to do about it now? So it's a really lovely track because it's so uplifting. The lyrics were weirdly quite prophetic because it talks about potential like disasters in the world and how we have to be aware of that and come together and stay together and keep that community closeness and bond. And that comes through a lot of the time through music and dancing, especially in African culture. Music and dancing is such a key part of the community. It's the heart of the community.
Yeah, and it's a universal language. Music, everyone speaks that language. So
and it makes you feel good dancing and singing. So yeah.
So we're going to show you a little clip of that song and video, and
it's available on Bandcamp with all proceeds going to the South African Education Project. And
so we will the link will be available, so please get involved and support us and help them.
You can buy the track for as little or as much as you want, but obviously as much as you can give would be more for the children.
So thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy this video.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Chicka, what's up? Vai doer, papá, vai dar no osso. Yeah, Tangoma, já chegou. Vai doer, papá, vai dar no osso. Tangoma, já chegou.
And welcome back, guys. Wow, what a tune. Absolutely love those Afro vibes. And that video, you know, so much joy and so much happiness and dancing. And yeah, what an absolute blessing. Some great tools and tips as well. You know, I absolutely love the one setting the bar low, which is a tool I use a lot as well. But also that input and output analogy. That's brilliant, you know. So thank you so much to Al and to Michelle as well. And again, that track is available for download, and donations are going to help, you know, put to put a bit of backing into the South African education system and help look after some of the young ones' minds. So we're going to crack on, and let's have a look at, you know, what tools do I choose then for me. You know, the girls were talking about some different tools that they use, whether it's sound, whether it's walking in nature. There's no one size fits all, as I mentioned before, because it's all about, well, me, well, you know what I mean. So where to begin? Well, firstly, we could begin with something that, you know, you could pick anything that you like. Anything you like doing. Could be going for a sauna, could be painting your nails, could be watching a film, could be reading a book, could be doing anything you like, which is fantastic. You know, that's a brilliant place to start. But if you want to delve a little bit deeper with self-care, that you can work with it and navigating a best way to manage your story that you're running. Okay, and you can observe where you're at. So using that ability to connect with yourself, and by connecting with yourself, you can work out where you're at. You can also observe what stresses are going on in my life, and which in turn will then help with observing what's the story that I'm actually living. And so by checking in with the story that you're living, so an example for me is I get up, I have my 20 minutes, my cup of tea, I'll then do some meditation, I'll then do some movement, I'll then come upstairs here and do some work, and then after that I will take a break, and then I'll do more work, and then I'll have lunch, and then I'll do some phone calls and meetings. And so that's, at the moment, that's the story that's running, that daily story that's running. The overall story is, you know, I'm living in Manchester, and, you know, I'm a holistic therapist and coach. And so but by tapping into that self-connection, we're able to see where we're at, we're able to identify the stresses, and we're able to identify our life story, what's going on. Now, the beauty of self-care is it can fold into that story to help you navigate that story, where you can really check in with, is this a story that I want to be running? So let's say I want to be a footballer, but I'm getting up and I'm living the story I've just created. Now, there's obviously a disconnect there, so in order to change that, I need to basically put different tools into perspective. So what I might do is do my daily morning practice, and then go into, you know, playing football. So it's a very simple and very, what would you say, very diverse example. But what I'm getting at is that with using things like self-care, you're able to help navigate the story that you're in. You know, you could be really stressed at work, your mind's really busy, you could be getting home and feeling anxious, and you can build self-care in then to help calm the mind, to help lower that anxiety and lower that stress. It might be a mindfulness practice, it might be a breathwork practice. So you can help navigate that, because at the end of the day, we are what we do. What do I mean? I don't mean, you know, I'm a butcher because that's what I do. It's, you know, the activities you're doing throughout the day creates the person that you are. So if you are holding on to everything, if you're getting into work and you're feeling stressed, and you're not having an outlet, you're not having that self-nourishment, you're not getting that input, okay, what's going to happen is that basically you're going to become the things that you're holding on to. So you're holding on to that stress, you're holding on to that anxiety. You know, it's not ideal, but that's what you'll become. So what we can do is use self-care, match these tools to where we're at. So I suppose the next question is, you know, well, what tools? Okay, and so if I'm going to say, well, if I'm going to advise on what tools, we're not going to give specifics really. Let's work around that, because this is for you and it's up to yourself. But first things first, you know, start with love and joy. Okay, I'm not getting too hippie here, but start with things that you love and things that you enjoy. Okay, what makes you feel good? You know, is it spending time with family? Is it walks? You know, what is it, and what do you enjoy? Starting there. As the girls pointed out, set the bar low. So start small and regular. Start 5 minutes a day and slowly build that up. I'd also start with self-hygiene, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're eating properly, making sure that you're you're moving, making sure that you're nourishing yourself, as I was touching on before, that you're offering yourself space to relax, and that you're also connecting with those people around you. It's very, very important. We are a social being, so connecting to that as well, so helpful. Okay. And as I said, what you can also do is you can pair those stresses to your self-care, which is, the ideal really, is if you notice that you are getting stressed out when you do certain things, then it's a matter of offering a form of self-care to navigate that. So some examples might be my cup of tea that I have in the morning is a moment just to kind of check in with myself and just, relax. I like routine, so I kind of create routines for myself. For me, that's a form of self-care. The reason is because it helps me navigate the tasks that I have to do without really getting kind of stressed with them. Playtime and creative time is so important as well. I tend to find that even in my own world, I tend to leave creativity in that and put it aside, which is not ideal, because we, as kids, we're creative. We're making, rocket ships out of pens. We're doing all sorts of stuff. And as we grow older, we tend to lose that a bit. So building in some time to play, however that looks and feels for you. There's amazing tools as well, the likes of self-compassion, where you can really just acknowledge where you're at and offer yourself kindness, offer yourself understanding that we all go through the experiences we're going through, and hence we can offer kindness. We can offer gratitude as well. Gratitude is an amazing tool. Okay. And by that, the way I use it is I typically think of 3 things I'm grateful for in the last 24 hours. And out of those 3 things I'm grateful for, I'll write them down. And if any time I'm feeling flat or low, I can go back and find those 3 things, and I can read them again, which typically helps really offer me that space to get back into my comfort zone and feeling good about myself. It's been scientifically proven that with gratitude practice, it sets off all those beautiful hormones, all your oxytocin, your dopamine, your serotonin, all those feel-good hormones. So physiologically, you can really benefit yourself from offering yourself that little bit of nourishment. Positive affirmations are great, or mantras, whichever you'd like. Positive affirmations for me are fantastic, just giving yourself that little bit of self-love. And then you've got those other tools of breath work, mindfulness, self-awareness is pretty much what it all incorporates. It all is up to you, because again, this is your journey. And my big take-home point with the whole thing is finding things that you love and that you enjoy, and lump them into your everyday and your every week life. Chuck them in, as many as you can. Really start enjoying and nourishing yourself, because as someone who's been down the deep end, once we disconnect from that enjoyment and that, life's pretty tough and pretty hard and not as nice as it could be. So I'd highly recommend finding and seeking out those things that you enjoy. So with that, last question for today, and the question is, what gifts would I love to receive? So what gifts would I love to receive? And you can say, what gift would I love to receive every day? And what gifts would I love to receive each week? So I'm hoping you've taken some time, pressed pause, and been able to have a look into the last question. The idea is with that last question, it's with these questions, is to obviously take you into that, take you into on a journey through, how do I care for me? Why is caring for me important? How can I connect better with myself? And then what gifts would I love to receive? And what tools and techniques have we got that we can really embody and really start, elevating our well-being and bettering our lives, so we're happier and healthier, and we're enjoying things more. And so I hope that I hope that's been helpful, exploring self-care. It's a vast topic. As I said, my intention today is just to bring awareness to self-care, bring awareness to the importance of us nourishing ourselves and looking after ourselves. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? Let's be honest. So I hope that's been beneficial, and it's my absolute pleasure. As always, questions, queries, thoughts, post them through. You can either find me at futurevibrations.co.uk or Future Vibrations Elevating Wellbeing on Facebook or on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you guys think, what's been beneficial, or any thoughts you may have. And it's with that, yeah, it's my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce the beautiful Katie Straddons from Your Mind Shrine, who's going to take us out with a beautiful meditation on self-care. So until next week, thank you guys so much, and catch you soon. Peace.
Hello, beautiful people. My name's Katie Straddins, and I've been invited here today to provide you with a short meditation focusing on self-love. Something nice and short and simple, and it's about connecting with our heart space and remembering we have all the love we could possibly need within us. So we're going to jump straight into it, and I'm going to invite you to find yourself a comfortable space and close your eyes. Going to take a deep breath in, and as we take this deep breath in, we're going to focus on our heart, and we're going to plant intention to shine the love directly from here throughout our bodies. So visualize a time that you was at your best and you accomplished something great, or you helped somebody in need. It can be something as simple as an achievement or the love you showed to a newborn baby. Use all your senses to experience this memory. Your sense of touch, your sense of smell, what could you hear? What could you see? You're focusing on the heart. Feel the warmth inside you. And own that love. Own that kindness. Feel it spreading from your heart to the tips of your fingers, all the way down to your toes and up to the top of your head. This radiant, strong feeling of self-love and compassion. Take this time to focus in on this feeling and honor yourself as a caring, compassionate human being. Let your breath guide you. Inhaling self-love and exhaling everything that no longer serves you. slowly starts to fade, I'm going to take this moment to experience this feeling, to feel the self-love. And I hope this is something you can carry with you throughout the day. Practice that's going to help you feel this on a daily basis.